Good morning and welcome to our Pearson BTEC Apprenticeships SASE Transition webinar for the engineering and manufacturing sector. My name is Bryony Leonard. I am the Sector Manager for Engineering and Manufacturing, and I'll be guiding you through this presentation today. So the purpose for today is to provide you with some information and tools and assistance to allow you to help plan for your transition from SASE apprenticeships to new apprenticeship standards from August 2020. Now, for those of you who have been around apprenticeships for a while, you will know that SASE apprenticeships have been scheduled for withdrawal from July 2020 for the last number of years. New apprenticeship standards were developed from 2014 onwards, and we are finally switching off SASE as of this July. So what we have is a number of apprenticeship frameworks that are currently existing for framework delivery, and these are the ones that will be impacted in the SASE switch off. Now, all of these frameworks listed are currently offered by SEMTA, or as they're now known, Ingenuity. So these are the ones that you'll need to be aware of. There may be other frameworks offered by other sector skills councils, for example, the National Skills Academy for Food and Drink Manufacturing, but I've not listed those here. So we have composites at level 2 and 3, engineering and manufacture, which are the main bulk of our apprenticeship frameworks at level 2, 3 and 4. And we have our improving operational performance at level 2, which is our PEO, PMO and BIT, and our operations and quality improvement level 3 framework, which is BIT at level 3. So all of these will be switched off as of the 31st of July. We haven't had confirmation as to when the certification end date will be, but it's likely to be a minimum of 2 years. So we're looking at probably July 2022 as a minimum in terms of outstanding learners being certificated on this. If you have any questions about certification end dates for the frameworks, then please do contact SEMTA or Ingenuity, or Apprenticeship Certificate England as well, who should be able to provide some further assistance. What we have provided in the handouts are a couple of documents to help you understand what's being switched off and our recommendations for alternative standards. So these can be seen in the Engineering SASE to Standards January 2020 document and the Engineering SASE to Standards Qualifications document. Now, the first document shows you at a high level the framework pathway, and our suggested framework standard replacement. This isn't a guarantee. Obviously, you would need to look at the details of each apprenticeship standard to see if it is a suitable standard for you. I would also say that standards tend to be written quite high level, so it may not appear immediately obvious that that's a direct replacement for the existing framework pathway, but please do look at the skills, knowledge and behaviours and the duties that someone will do as part of that apprenticeship, and it may become apparent that that is the correct equivalent for you. The SASE to Standards Qualifications document has the same level of detail, but also outlines the qualifications that were linked to the frameworks and then the qualifications that are linked to the standards. In some engineering and manufacturing qualification standards, there are mandated qualifications, and then there are others where there are no mandated qualifications, but where it's recommended that you may consider a qualification to help support either your on-the-job training or your off-the-job training. So the landscape post-July. It's an interesting landscape. Like I said, there will be no SASE frameworks, although you will have your legacy learners that started potentially last September, just coming to the end or partway through their programs. But all new starts from the 1st of August 2020 will have to be on a new apprenticeship standard. So what does this mean to you? So in engineering and manufacturing, we have 172 apprenticeship standards listed. So this is the largest number across all apprenticeship sectors. We've been developing standards since November 2014, when the Richards Review took place, and employer groups have been very busy since that time creating new apprenticeship standards. So at the moment we have 122 standards approved for delivery, again the largest number of apprenticeship standards available from level 2 to level 7. There are 22 standards in development. So this is where the apprenticeship standard and/or the Apprenticeship Assessment Plan has been approved. There are 11 standards where the proposal has been accepted. So this is where the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education have accepted that an apprenticeship standard needs to be designed. There are 10 apprenticeship standards that have been withdrawn. That's either withdrawn by the Institute or by the employer groups for a variety of reasons. And there have been 7 standards that have been retired, which is slightly different to withdrawn. Of those 7 standards, 6 became the engineering technician standards. So a number of standards that were created in 2014 and 2015 were merged together in March 2016 to create a super standard, otherwise known as the engineering technician standard. That standard has 13 occupations within it at level 3. So again, look at that standard if you're not sure. It could be that the occupation is within that standard. Now, within these standards, like I said earlier, there are a number of either mandated or recommended qualifications. Pearson offer a number of the mandated qualifications within the knowledge area, and we also offer additional qualifications that may be considered where there are no mandated qualifications listed. So, for apprenticeship standards, there are currently 26 level 2 standards available, 48 level 3 standards, 16 at level 4, 5 at level 5, 17 at level 6, and 10 at level 7. So we do offer knowledge qualifications to support a number of the level 2, a number of the level 3, and the level 4 standards where it is mandated. Our HNCs, HNDs can also be used within level 4 and 5 standards, but also as a top-up option within the level 6 standard. In many of the level 6 standards, there is a mandated degree program. However, that can be attained in a number of different ways, either with an HNC top-up approach, HNC, HND top-up approach, or straight degree approach. So as part of this as well, we also have endpoint assessment. Pearson at the moment currently only supports endpoint assessment for one of the level 7 standards, which is level 7 systems engineer. If there are any other standards that you think Pearson should be able to support from an endpoint assessment perspective, please do speak to your business development manager or your curriculum development manager, or add it in the chat function within this webinar. As engineering and manufacturing have been around from a standards perspective since 2015, when the first apprenticeship starts were registered, the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education are now carrying out route reviews. So initially it was that an apprenticeship standard would only be valid for 3 years, and then it would have to be reviewed. The Institute obviously were brought in within that 3-year period, and that process was temporarily halted. They've now decided to do a wider scale route review, and they've identified 59 engineering standards which are currently being reviewed by the Institute. So they had a consultation which closed on the 5th of February. So at the moment they are collating those responses to that consultation on those 59 standards, and there are a number of popular engineering standards on there, engineering technician being one of them, and they will feed back to the respective employer groups in the summer to autumn of this year. Based on that summary of feedback, it's unlikely that the employer groups will be able to make any amendments to the standards that will impact learners starting this September. So it is likely that new standards and new requirements for new standards are likely to be from September 2021 at the earliest. There are a number of changes that the employer groups know that they need to make to the standards in order to continue to make them fit for purpose. So what we have is a slide here on what the standards actually are. So if you aren't aware of new standards, these are an employer-led apprenticeship development which have a specific occupation and include knowledge, skills and behaviours that an individual is going to need to demonstrate in order to be occupationally competent. Qualifications alone no longer define occupational competence, or the completion of qualifications no longer define occupational competence. So this outlines what an employee or an apprentice needs to know, do, and how to behave in order to be occupationally competent within a specific occupation. So employers create a standard, which is a bit like a job description, and then they create an assessment plan, which is how a candidate needs to be assessed to be deemed occupationally competent. And that is carried out by an independent endpoint assessment. So this is an assessment that's carried out by an independent body to the employer and training provider of that apprenticeship, and it usually looks at 2 different types of assessment methodologies as a minimum that is carried out at the end of their apprenticeship to deem them occupationally competent. So how can we support you on these? On our website, we have an apprenticeship section where you can see the link to Apprenticeship Standards. This will list all of the apprenticeship standards that Pearson are currently supporting and the offer in which we're supporting either on programme or endpoint assessment. This includes mandated or recommended qualifications, preparation and support for endpoint assessment, links to any online or digital learning support that we may have for on programme as well. Within the handouts, you will see that I have added in an additional handout. This lists the 122 standards that are available in engineering and manufacturing and outlines Pearson's support offer for both on-programme and endpoint assessment. So where there are mandated qualifications, it will contain the mandated qualification with a link to the specification page on our website. Where it's recommended, you will see that it says recommended in the link to the specification page, and where we offer endpoint assessment, you will see the link to the endpoint assessment page on our website. So for further support and questions, you need to contact either your business development manager or your curriculum development manager, depending on whether you're a private training provider or an FE college. We've also listed here the telephone numbers for the customer services teams and also the email addresses. So I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you very much for listening. And if you want to attend any face-to-face or support events, please take a look at our Training from Pearson page where you will find more information. Thank you.